Hey Successful, thank you so much for choosing this video to click on today. You guys, I'm a little bit nervous, but my name is Daniela and I am on this channel to share my journey while empowering yours. And a big part of my journey is the fact that I broke up with debt. Okay, so before we get into it, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe sometime during this video. If you like it, if you think you want to stick around and you want to join the network, please subscribe. And if you have anything to say, comment down below because I want to know what your thoughts are. So with that said, let's get into it. What the heck? I broke up with debt. What does that even mean? So last year was a very interesting year for me financially, and I was praying about it, right? And one thing that God said was, don't build a beautiful house on sand. And of course we know that verse about building your house on a solid rock, so that when the rain comes, when the flood comes, when whatever comes, it'll still stand. And a house on sand, even though she's beautiful, if anything happens, that house will just flop right over because it's on sand. And so God had told me not to build a beautiful house on sand, and I was just trying to think about, like, how am I doing that in my life? How am I doing that in my finances, right? And so I kept praying about it and things like that. And something else that he told me was to start doing finances his way, and specifically also to start doing taxes his way. And when he said that, I was kind of confused because I'm like, I have never had a problem with taxes in my life before. Like, what do you mean do taxes your way? And so when I was inquiring about it and praying about it and just like really meditating and thinking about it, something that came up which totally made sense is how debt is related to tax. Just stick with me, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys a quick 30-second tax education. You guys, I'm a finance major, which is part of the reason why this was like so hard for me to even record and go through with God, because I felt like I probably had some sort of pride when it came to understanding finances, especially in the US economy, because I'm just like really educated about it. I feel like I'm really confident on it when it comes to credit, taxes, budgeting, saving, all those things. I feel like I have a pretty good education about it. So when he told me to do this his way, I'm like, well, what way am I doing it, God? Like, I thought I was already doing everything your way, right? And so he started to challenge, like, when it comes to debt, specifically taxes. Let me explain that, right? So if you guys didn't know, the more debt you take on, the less tax burden you're going to owe, because debt is not taxable, but income is. So that's how come you'll see like big celebrities and the people who have a lot of money, they'll still take mortgages and debt for things because it's going to help them owe less taxes in the long run, because again, you cannot tax debt, you can only tax income. And when you have debt, it lowers your income. Think about it like net worth, right? If you owe $10,000 here and you made $50,000, you net have 40K, right? So you always want to, well, when it comes to taxes and doing like having tax strategy, it's good to either give or take on debt, because it's going to lower your tax burden. Okay, and I think the reason why he said that to me is because actually I was talking about it to somebody like a couple days ago, or about strategies and things like that, and things that people can do to lower their tax burden. And he basically asked me, like, did I teach you this or did the world teach you this? And I was like, yikes, because God did not teach me to take on debt to lower my tax burden. He just didn't. Like, he did not teach me that. Okay, and then something else that really hit hard was about credit. Right, I have videos on YouTube about how to, increase your credit score. Credit score is something that's very important in the U.S. economy. In order to buy a house, get an apartment, buy a car, they say that you have to have a good credit score, so you have to know how to build your credit. But you know what's crazy? Building your credit requires you to be a good debtor. Does that even make any sense? Like, if you really think about it, having a high credit score shows that you have shown to the credit bureaus that you are a very good debtor. You pay on your debts on time, you make your payments on time, and you have had debt for a long period of time. Because one of the things, the metrics on calculating your credit score is how long you've had an account open for. And it's the longer the better. So say if you have a mortgage and your mortgage loan has been open for 3 years, it's not as good as if it was open for 15 years, right? And that goes to show that credit scores get better when you have debt and you pay it on time, but you don't get rid of the debt. Because whenever you close your account, your credit score goes down. Whenever you close your account, the amount of time that you've had an account open for goes down, and that actually worsens your credit. So people are motivated in our economy. It's like very normal, and it's encouraged even to keep debt for a long period of time to keep your credit score up. But it doesn't make sense to me, because if you're trying, well, now it doesn't make, because before I didn't question it. Okay, let me be honest. This is because God convicted me that it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let me not act brand new, but it's just crazy that our credit score is calculated upon how good of a debtor we are and how long we remain debtors. And when I was praying to God about, I just really wanted to get in a different place financially, he began to like lay these things in front of me and show me like, hey, I didn't teach you this, I didn't teach you this. If you want to get to this next level, you gotta go with me, because you serve me. And something else that he told me was that I want you to help people just like you stop serving Mammon and serve God. And I want to read that verse real quick. So it is Matthew 6:24, and it says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. And I feel like when God directed me to that verse, I was like, what? Like, I'm not serving money. But then whenever I looked back at everything and thought about like, how I make my decisions, why I do certain things that I do, it's because of either the money I'm making or my job. And while it doesn't really sound bad, I don't know, it just hit me a different way when I was like there just like meditating on it, because I was like, oh snap, like I make decisions not based on what God can do for me, but based on what my money can do for me, or based on what my job will allow me to do. And I will take on a job or leave a job because of how much money I'm making, right? Everything has to do with money a lot of times, or even how much I'm able to give to others, or how much I'm able to help each other. It all goes back to how much money are you making, right? And if you're not careful, because you want to make more money, you're going to start doing things solely because of money and not because of God. And I think because I was praying about this and I was asking God, like, I want you to take me to the next level, he was really like laying all these things out for me about how I need to change my mindset about money first, start doing things his way in order for him to take me to that place, because he couldn't take me with the current mindset that I had. I couldn't keep thinking that debt was okay for where I was trying to go, for where I want to go with God specifically, right? So going back to the idea of not building your house on a beautiful house on sand, right? I know a lot of people talk about, and I am very well versed in the idea of leverage, right? And using leverage in order to do things that you would not be able to before. So taking a big loan at a bank and paying a certain interest, but then using that money to make more on some other adventure, right? And the idea is that as long as whatever you're paying out for interest is less than whatever you're making on top of the money that you've taken out, then it's okay. But the thing is, like, now I'm understanding that to be a beautiful house on sand, because we're not accounting for any risk that may happen. We're not accounting for anything that may happen. There's no insurance for debt payments, you guys. There are not. We're just banking on the fact that, an investment has to do really well in order for me not to lose this money. And I think that people who are at a much better financial space, like having savings accounts, right? Having securities on certain things, can do those things because they have like checks and balances if something falls through. But I think I was adopting these kind of mindsets and these kind of like principles without even having the basic things in place, like a 6-month savings account. Like, that's crazy to think about it now. Like, that's insane. So, and I'm just being vulnerable because I feel like I'm definitely not the only one, and I definitely want to share something that God has put on my heart. And yeah, so with all of that meditating and thinking and just praying, I recognize that like, debt is a real issue, because I went to my budget and I was seeing, okay, how can I get out of this? And God literally told me to get another job. He told me to get a part-time job. He literally told me, he was like, you need to pay off your debt, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to use what you have, and you're going to bring more value to the world to make more money. And that's what I did. I ended up getting a part-time job, and that's the first step I took. And it's crazy because the way that job came was so easy breezy. I just knew that was God. Like, as soon as I was like, okay, God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get on this debt-free journey, and I'm going to position myself to where you can actually use me for whatever you want, and not whatever I feel like I can afford or whatever I feel like I can work with, depending on what I'm doing. I feel like everything just started to change, because video is strictly about, you know, why I broke up with debt. I really want to make sure that you're understanding like why I took this step to get on this debt-free journey and like break up with debt in the first place. And one of the major reasons why is because I realized that debt is something that kind of restricts you from doing a lot of other things. Like, right, when you have payments that you have to make up, when you have to pay something because you owe it, it kind of gives you less options, right? Like, I can't sit and be like, okay, well, I don't want to work here anymore. I want to switch this up because God told me to go this way, because I'm like, well, I have to pay this debt. Like, you don't really have that many options when you're in debt, when you're in a lot of debt specifically. And so I really wanted to get out of this place where I had all this debt, consumer debt, like credit card debt, student loans, personal debt, things like that you just take out when you don't necessarily have to. So what I'm not saying is that debt is bad. Like, I really do believe that God can use anything and everything to help people. And like things like mortgages really bless people till this day. I don't think that debt is bad, but I do believe that there are steps to, you know, wealth. There are mindsets that you need to change in order to get to where you need to be. And for me, where I wanted to go, God was like, you need to solve this debt issue in your life because it's not serving you in any capacity, right? And so I really want to talk about that, because actually I brought up to God, I was like, okay, well, what about, you know, the widow that went to Prophet Elijah, I think it was Elisha in the Bible, and she asked like, hey, what do I do? My husband's dead, he owes his debt. And he told her to literally go and borrow bins in order to fill up with the oil that she had in her house in order to sell it to people. And so her thing was, she borrowed a bunch of bins and she used the oil that she had, and that oil did not stop until she filled all the bins. And the whole point was that she needed to have a lot of bins so that she could sell off. And she had, at the end, people obviously got their bins back with oil in them that they bought, and then she actually had access to live on with her sons. And that's something that God showed me, and I even got brought to God. I'm like, okay, well, God, like, you're telling me to stop borrowing. He literally told me specifically, stop being the borrower, right? And we know that verse, right? The borrower is a slave to the lender. He literally told me to stop being the borrower. And I'm like, well, this lady was a borrower, and something that God told me was, yes, in her situation, there was an emergency that she needed to fix. And this was a way that God used to provide for her in a place of need. Also, it was a word from God that caused her to do this. It was a word from God that told her, go and borrow these bins. How often is it that you hear a word from God to go borrow $25,000 for your next business venture, right? People who hear from God and do those steps, knowing that God told them to do it, it's fine. Like, God blesses that journey, right? But I know for me, a lot of the debt that I used to take was not because God told me from anywhere to go take that debt, right? A lot of times. But we're better in the name of Jesus. A lot of times, right? If I wanted to buy something, or I wanted to go into business venture, or I wanted to do whatever, like, a lot of the things are just like, debt is just the answer because I have a good credit score, it's easy, whatever, I'll pay it off. And not necessarily that God told me to do this, so I'm doing this. Those are two very different things. And so I think the reason why God brought it up to me was because, going back to serving God and not Mammon, I was not necessarily going to him about decisions like that because I knew I had a good credit score, because I knew that I could afford the payments, but not because God told me to do it. So who was I really serving? Was I serving God, or was I serving money? God really made me to understand the two differences between hearing a word from God and acting, and just acting according to the resources that you believe that you already have. But you know what's crazy is that I literally have everything in Christ. So I can depend on God to provide something for me, or I can at least wait on God and ask him, hey, what should I do about this, before I just make up the decision to go take out a debt because I believe it's easy and it's accessible unto me. So I want to give God more of an opportunity to have a say in my financial decisions, and to not run to debt just because it's convenient and it's has a proximity to me. It feels like I can go to the bank right now, they can approve a loan, and I can walk out with the cash. Like, that's how it just feels, so fast. But the thing is, do we really believe God then? Because we already have all the resources in Christ right now. So why is it that I feel like getting a loan would be faster than getting something from God uniquely. There may be times where you have a need, right? But it doesn't mean that you are perpetually going to be in that place of being the borrower. Because if you look at that woman's testimony, right? She borrowed those buckets, I don't know, they were vases, whatever. She borrowed those vases and she was able to sell them and gain the money back. But I was not in a place, my mindset before, where I was gonna borrow money and quickly pay back. It was just, you borrow money in order to have this asset, and not you borrow money in order to make this investment and return it back quickly. That was a strategy that the prophet gave her to do in order to get out of her situation for an emergency, and that was to provide for a need. So God made me to understand that, like, that's what he used to help her in her place of need. But in order for me to go to abundance, I don't need debt. Does that make sense? So that really helped me to make sense of it, was that, you know, these are places of need. And you're asking for a place of abundance and wealth. You cannot keep perpetually using debt in order to get to abundance. It just does not work like that in the kingdom of God, right? And he told me that, hey, I need you to multiply your talent, not multiply your debt. In order to get to this place of wealth with me, for me to take you there, I can't have you continue to harbor with the mindset of debt and thinking that it's okay. In order to get to a different place, there are some things that you have to let go, right? And I needed to let go of debt for where I need to get to. And it just taught me that nobody has really taught me that, hey, like, let's do things the debt-free way in my upbringing. And obviously, like, when I did my finance major and things like that, I wasn't taught that, because that's not how the US works. We thrive on debt. Like, look at the national debt with the United States alone. It's crazy, right? So when God began to show me, like, hey, I want you to do things this way, I literally had to be like, I have to dramatically break up with debt for me to get on this road that God is taking me on. So that is why I broke up with debt. And so how did I do it, you guys? I started researching, and the person that kept popping up everywhere was, you probably have heard his name before, Dave Ramsey. Now, whether or not you like Dave Ramsey, whatever feelings, emotions you have about him, you have to recognize that this man has helped a lot of people pay off debt and has helped a lot of people become millionaires. So whether or not you like his principles or how he teaches or whatever the case may be, you gotta respect the fact that this man has made major impact. I started following like what he does. Like, I learned about the baby steps and all those things, and that's literally what I did. I took the steps and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna learn from somebody who's already done this before, and I'm not gonna try to reinvent and recreate the wheel. So here I am right around 7 to 8 months later, and I am on my debt-free journey. And it is so exciting because from July of 2022 and now, so much has changed. My income has changed, my tenacity has changed, my passions have changed, my everything has changed, and the way I view life has changed, because God is taking me on this journey of don't serve money, serve me. And look, when you serve me, there's so much more that you're able to do. And that's the other thing that I got to realize as well, is that when your only answer is debt, like, okay, how do I pay for this? I'll take out a loan, like loan, debt. When that's your only answer, you're like robbing God the opportunity to show you how good he actually is and how he can actually cancel debts. He can actually make things happen for you without you to ever have to take a loan. When you already have an answer and you stick by it, right? You're telling God, I got it, don't worry about it. And God's gonna be like, all right, that's fine. But if you challenge God and you're like, hey God, I'm your daughter, take care of me, watch what happens, because you probably won't have to take out half the loans you already take out. And that's something that I've learned in my personal life. And it's just so exciting to be on this journey. But I don't know who this was for, but I wanted to share this with you guys about how I broke up with that and why I broke up with that. So about my debt-free journey and where I am right now. So I have the Mint app, and I use it for like everyday budgeting, things like that. And I, follow the whole like the net worth thing. And I do own a condo, and I have student loans. I had like a personal loan that I took for some business venture. And then I also had credit card debt. Y'all, PayPal credit will get you, okay? I had some PayPal credit card debt, and I had some like business credit card debt as well. So when you count everything together, I owed like $25,000 on credit card debt, as well as like personal loan, those two things together, debt. And then I had a total of $17,000 on student loans. well, actually no, I had a total of $27,000 on student loans. And now today I have $10,000 left on student loans and nothing else on any other debt. And it feels so exciting not to have a car payment. It feels amazing not to have a student loan hanging around. Even though there's no payments right now, it feels good to just not have that much left. I'm almost there. And it feels good not to have a personal loan payment. I had all these payments that added up to a lot, to be honest, if you add everything together. And having the credit card payment, one thing about the credit card payment though is I always know not to carry interest. So the loans that I had, well, the debt that I had on my credit card was on my business card, and I had like the year or whatever before it starts calculating interest, so that's why I was putting it on there. But it just feels nice not to have anything anywhere that I have to pay off. The student loans are not payments right now, and I can't wait till I get that paid off. But it all started with a decision to break up with debt. I really don't think this would have been possible if God didn't convict me about where I was financially. And I don't think it would have happened if I didn't make the decision to do what God was telling me to do. This is just to encourage anybody out there who may feel stuck in your finance journey and maybe intrigued by debt freedom. Definitely decide to trust God, because I tell you guys, when I decided to trust God, I had literally opportunities come up for my business literally like shortly after I got the second job that I was looking for. A lot of things just lined up, and I was like, wow, all of a sudden it just became so possible to pay off all this debt that I had no idea how I was even gonna start paying off. All of a sudden it just became possible. And what's great is that the more you pay off, the more you can pay off, because you know money gets liberated from different loans and things like that. So yeah, I broke up with debt, and it feels so amazing, and I'm excited for where God is taking me in this next step of life. I'm excited for how I'm gonna get to all the places that He's shown me, and it just goes to prove of God's goodness and His faithfulness. Because when He was telling me all these things, and I wrote down, I remember, actually let me read it to you guys. I literally wrote down on my journal here, I have opened the door of prosperity and financial blessing and opportunity. Behold, abundance is here. And I wrote that when I was feeling like, what the heck? This was on June 4th, 2022. And that's when God was telling me to do all these things. And then after He told me that, He told me I have opened up the door of prosperity, when I decided that, God, I'm going to trust you in this. And I didn't really know what that meant. But like, I'm definitely not where I want to be now. Like, by any means, but compared to where I was last year, I am so grateful to God. And it all started with just accepting, God, yes, I will do things your way. So this is a challenge or an invitation or whatever you want to look at it, for you to accept God's way to do finances, accept God's way to do taxes, to do credit, to do budgeting, to do saving, all of those things. Accept His way. Because when you do, He makes provision for things to come to pass in your life that allows you to take those steps the way He wants you to take them. I'd like to be open about these things because I think more people need to feel like they're not alone, especially in hush-hush topics like this, like finances. And sometimes it's good to hear from someone that's still on their journey and not necessarily already at the top of the hill. So I'm right here with you. I'm on my journey. I'm building my savings account. I'm paying off my debt. I'm trusting God to change my mindset more and more and more of money. It has changed a lot, but I know there's still so much to go. And so I want to invite you to join me on this journey. Let me know down below in the comments, where are you in your journey? Have you ever desired to be debt free? Are you interested in being debt free? Are you on your debt free journey? Let's chat below. I want to know, what is your mindset of money growing up? Like, how did that look like for you? But I want to remind you, God has every intention, and He wants you to be wealthy in every capacity, every single capacity. And don't let anybody tell you differently. We are children of God, and it is our right to inherit every good thing that God has created on this earth. But the thing is, we have to renew our minds, and we have to get aligned with how God does business, how God does finances, in order for us to walk in those things. But they're already ours, they're already yours. So I'm excited for you, I'm excited for me. So we've reached the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I was so nervous recording it, and I feel like I was like everywhere in the video, but I feel like sometimes we just gotta be real and not have points. I had points, but I just didn't I didn't look at them. So there's that. But I think that's okay because I really wanted this video to be as authentic as possible. So here it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will have every other video on my channel in playlist down below in the description box. Check them out, you guys. I promise you will gain so much value out of it. And with that, remember that you are successful, yes, even now. And that is just so imperative, especially for this video. So I'm gonna say it again. Remember that you are successful, yes, even now. Mwah. Love you guys.